Hello, Fuse Nation. My name is Alex Fuse, the host of Fusion News. Happy New Year. It is January 3rd, 2018. I am the host, Alex Fuse, and I am on the phone right now with Michael Hurley, who is a CBS Boston sports reporter. How are we doing tonight? I know there's a lot of, well, in some sports, not baseball, that's for sure, some sports news going on down there in Boston. So how are we doing tonight?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It hit me last week when the Bruins really started making a push. And all three teams going right now are going pretty well. So it's a busy time, but this is much better than the alternative.
So Patriot fans have to wonder, what is the easiest path to another Super Bowl victory this season?
Well, I guess you got to root for an upset, either Tennessee or Buffalo this weekend in Wild Card Weekend. I think even if the Titans were somehow able to win an Arrowhead, which would be pretty impressive, I wouldn't give the Titans much of a chance at all in Gillette. I think of the three teams that could visit Gillette division round, the Chiefs are the only one that could actually beat the Patriots. I mean, the Bills scored 0 offensive touchdowns in 120 minutes against the Patriots this year, so I can't see that happening. I don't see them getting by Jacksonville at all. So I think, for the Patriots, that's the easy one. The championship game, provided they get there, is going to be a challenge, whether it's Pittsburgh in a rematch for the first time, 2 meetings within a month and a half, or the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are the type of team that, could cause a problem for the Patriots with all their sacks, with their cornerbacks playing man coverage, and, Leonard Fournette controlling the pace of the game. That game would be fascinating. And I think the Jaguars are sort of the underrated team in the AFC going into the playoffs. So we'll see what they do either against the Steelers or the Patriots going forward.
Who do you think is going to be a real contender for this Patriots team in the NFC? Do you think if the Patriots make the Super Bowl again this year, do you see a potential rematch from last Super Bowl with the Falcons?
I think, sadly, I was rooting for that because that would be great, but I don't see the Falcons getting out of Wild Card Weekend with the Rams being as complete a team as there is in the league. But the Patriots, they go to the Super Bowl a lot. They always have trouble with their opponent, whether it's their 2 losses to the Giants or all 5 of their wins. None of them were exactly convincing. And I thought, last year would be the change. I thought they were better than the Falcons. And then for, most of that game, I was looking very foolish. So I think, a lot of those top teams, I think Minnesota could be a problem. I think the Rams could be a problem. And I think, who am I forgetting? Oh, the Saints could be a problem just because of how good they are. So if the Patriots already get there, which I think they should. I mean, if I was a gambling man, I'd bet on the Patriots getting back to the Super Bowl. But any 3 of those matchups would be problematic. And I don't give the Panthers or the Eagles much of a chance to even get there. So that pretty much takes care of that. But I think, Minnesota, and especially when you factor in that it's going to be in Minnesota, that's a whole other element. That would be, make for a pretty dramatic lead up to it. So I by no means am looking at the Patriots as a shoe-in to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with that. But what has happened recently in the past few weeks is there's been some talking about some conflict behind the scenes in the Patriots. A few weeks ago, the Patriots traded away Jimmy Garoppolo. Do you feel like the Patriots made a mistake by trading their backup quarterback away? Or do you think this was the right move to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo? I know they only got really a 2nd-round draft pick, which the Patriots don't even really need. But do you feel like that was a mistake by the Patriots, or was it an okay move?
Well, it was definitely strange asset management. You don't normally see the Patriots make a move that looks like it wasn't planned. And when you trade a guy in the middle of the season, when you definitely could have gotten a lot more before the draft, it doesn't jive with what we've seen from Bill Belichick over the years. So it's definitely eyebrow-raising, but I think what gets forgotten a lot is that the Patriots traded 8 weeks of Jimmy Garoppolo. And he was going to be a free agent at the end of this year. The Patriots were not going to be able to pay the franchise to him and pay Brady. And I think, ultimately, if Garoppolo goes on to be as great as he's looked to start his career, it's going to look bad for the Patriots that they let him go. But if you make a trade, you lose it, and you end up with Tom Brady still playing at an MVP level and potentially winning you even just this one Super Bowl, I think it's a move that you're okay with because Tom Brady is literally a once-in-a-generational type player. And, if it comes down to, sticking with him while he's still playing well and having to lose Garoppolo in it, I think you have to sort of take that. That's a loss that I think most teams would take.
Yeah, I would if I was any team. But we'll switch gears now and talk some MLB offseason. I know the Red Sox really haven't done anything this offseason besides re-signing Mitch Moreland. But I have to say, what does this Red Sox team need to do? I feel like they need to add a power bat. Do you feel like maybe JD Martinez could be the answer to the questions for Red Sox fans? I know their rival, the Yankees, got Giancarlo Stanton, and there's no one really on the free agent, market that can potentially be a Stanton or anything. But what do you think this Red Sox team needs to do this offseason before spring training rolls around? And we're only just a few weeks away.
Yeah, well, needs to do is, one thing, I mean, they did win, and not that it was exciting and not that it generated any playoff success, but they did win the division for 2 straight years, so they definitely have a good core, but in terms of what they should do to get on the Yankees level, because I don't think they're there, I think a Machado trade is the most exciting thing that's on the docket, or, as a possibility, because Machado is a special player, but the only thing there is he has 1 year left, so can you get a chance to negotiate with him in order to, before you give up maybe a Bogarts and a top draft pick or something like that? You have to make sure that you can lock Machado up for more than 162 games, because that would just be bad business otherwise. So it would behoove the Orioles to allow people to negotiate so they can get better prospects out of it. But that's the type of move the Red Sox could make that would sort of get them back into the real discussion, because they definitely have stood pat this offseason, and it feels like they've fallen back to the pack, and while the Yankees have obviously added probably the most exciting player in the league. So there's work to be done. Beyond that, though, Martinez isn't a guy that we get anyone excited about investing that much money in, just like Eric Hosmer wasn't. That's why I think you do okay with Moreland instead of Hosmer, just because of the money difference. But yeah, the team, I think, as constituted, is good enough to be in that 90 to 100 win mix, but is it going to do anything in October? I'm not entirely sure.
I know. And, of course, their pitching looks pretty good, so they don't really need to add a starter pitcher. I mean, you always need pitching. That's the old saying. But they really need to add a power bat.
Yeah, I mean, you basically are adding a pitcher with David Price. He basically had his season shortened in half or more last year, and, he came back and pitched out of the bullpen at the end. But so provided David Price, manages to have some semblance of a strong performance, you basically are adding the pitching. So that should help theoretically. Then you weigh in some other factors. I mean, let's say you do get Martinez, he's going to hit a lot more home runs, but his defense is a huge drop-off from, say, if you move Jackie Bradley out of there. So it's a complex mix. I still lean offense over defense, but the defense, that's the type of thing that can show up over the course of the year without really, jumping out like 50 home runs might. But I don't know. Martinez seems like a long-term risk, but a short-term fix. So if there's a way to make that money work and maybe get an opt-out in there, it seems like the right move. But, committing 5 years to a guy who's really had one great full season and has never stayed healthy, I think he's had one season with more than 128 games played. It seems like an overcompensation, so I would actually probably steer clear of that big money deal for Martinez.
Well, Michael, before we wrap up this interview, I want to say thank you again for coming on my show. And I know you said you weren't too good with gambling, but who would you say is your 2018 Super Bowl champions?
Good question. I'm going to go with the Patriots on the fact of experience, on the fact of this team, they usually don't get the number 1 seed back-to-back years. After they win Super Bowls and play in Super Bowls, there's generally that step back. But this team has managed to, especially after a 2-2 start, to go 11-1 to go 11-1 the rest of the way. And let's say they're matched up against the Rams. You have McVay in his first year. You have Goff in his second year. You have a huge stage, and then you have Brady and Belichick, who've done it a million times, and you have the majority of the roster that was there last year. So I'd say the Patriots are the favorite, but by no means am I saying it's a lock or anything. I don't think they're head and shoulders better than those NFC teams, but let's say it's Rams-Patriots. I like the Patriots' chances.
All right, sounds good. And where can fans follow you on Twitter to follow along with you for the rest of the NFL season? Of course, the NHL, the NBA, and the MLB.
That's it. Michael F. Hurley there. Bad jokes all day long there. So as many bad jokes as you could ask for.
Well, you're a great follow, and I hope the Fuse Nation gives the time to follow you on Twitter. And thanks again for coming on my show tonight, and I hope to talk to you very soon again.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Of course, anytime. All right, Fuse Nation, just heard it from Michael Hurley from CBS Boston Sports. We talked the NFL, if I can say it correctly, the MLB, and much, much more. please be a subscriber of Fusion News. We are over 500. Thank you, Fusation. You are the best. And I also want to say thank you for following me on Twitter. In 2017, I had 6.5 million tweet impressions. That's how many times my tweets have been seen by you. So thank you for that as well. I want to say thanks again for watching my show and listening along. And I will be seeing you all very soon. Thanks for watching.